Alright, I know we've already talked about slope number lines in a previous video, but I wanted to give you one that was a little more, had a little more subtleties to pay attention to. Okay, so take a second, maybe pause the video and sketch this graph. Okay, alright, I hope you're back. And we're just going to make a slope number line for this particular graph. Now, it's important to keep in mind what a slope number line includes and what it ignores. A slope number line is going to track where the graph is increasing and decreasing. In other words, where it's rising and falling as you go from left to right. All right, and so that's going to inform the things that you include in your on your slope number line and the things that you ignore. So, what are the things to include? Well, if I kind of scan the picture up here, a lot of students will think that -5 needs to go on there. That -5 does not need to go on the number line. And again, remember on my slope number line, I'm putting x values. That -5 does not need to go on there because if you look at the graph from left to right, going way to the left and moving to the right, the graph is falling. And that and regardless of the fact that the graph is positive and then negative, and there's a 0 at -5, that doesn't matter. The graph is still falling as you move past -5. So that's not going to go in the number line. What is going to go in the number line is that asymptote, that -4. Okay, that breaks up our graph. We have a vertical asymptote there. So we can't talk about the graph rising or falling if there's no graph there. Alright, so that's going to go in the number line. But remember, the -5 does not. The -5 would go in an f of x number line because the graph goes from positive to negative and the changeover happens at -5. Okay, so the -4 is going to go on the number line. Let's see, what else? We continue on past -4. And I think the next key thing that needs to go on the number line is that hole, that 3. So I'm going to put a 3 there and I'm going to put an H there to remind myself there's a hole. And the graph continues on. So there's no need, I don't think there's any need to put anything else on the number line, right? Notice that 2 is a horizontal asymptote. That doesn't go in the number line because we're only doing x values. And now we just kind of read the graph. As you go from left to right, before -4, the graph is falling. So I'm going to put a negative there. Between -4 and 3, the graph is falling. And from from 3 onwards, the graph is falling. So it looks like this graph, in all the places for which the function is defined, the graph is decreasing everywhere. So we'll just note, because slope number lines are often used to state where a graph is increasing or decreasing, it's decreasing from, well, before, all x values before -4. So we'll write that as -infinity to -4, and we're going to put a soft bracket because -4 is not in the domain. There's no graph at x equals -4, so we can't include that. Union, and then it continues to decrease between -4 and 3. Again, soft bracket on both the -4 and the 3, again, because there's no graph at those x values, so you can't talk about the graph increasing or decreasing. And then it's going to continue to decrease from 3 to infinity. Okay, and it's never increasing.